So I want to take a little bit and talk about other people's opinions and how we think it matters so much. And in certain circumstances, I'm sure it does if you're trying to get a job or a loan or something like that. But you can, go inward in those case scenarios and put your mask on because, we all do that. But what I'm getting at is our sense of self-worth based on other people's opinions of us or what we think their opinions might be. And one of my favorite phrases is stop thinking what you think people are thinking. It's just a dead end street. It's pushing the rock up the mountain just to have it fall back down again. You can't live your life that way. And it starts in early adolescence, in childhood. We want to impress our parents. We love to see them laugh. We love to see them being proud of us. And then it just gets worse through grammar school and elementary school and high school. Because, as kids, we can be terrible. We don't know what we're doing. And then we have these hormones that are raging, these chemical reactions that are like little atomic bombs going off inside our body at all points in time. So we really start thinking that we have to fit in order to be productive in life and to feel good about ourselves. And to a degree, that is true. Because, kids that stand out get picked on. It's a little lesser now in this day and age because I think there's a lot more people that are accepting of other people. You have the LGBTQ movement, the, non-bully situation happening because, when I was growing up, nobody cared if you were bullied or not. Unless it was extremely violent. And even then, they just smoothed it over like, oh, boys will be boys. And no, that's parents will teach children. We show our kids. We don't teach them anything. We show them who we are as who our kids are going to be. And so that's where bullies come from. And, people that are homophobic or misogynistic or, those are all traumas that were brought along for the ride from earlier generations, ancestral traumas. It's difficult. Life isn't an easy thing, but we can make it a little easier on other people. We just don't have to succumb to peer pressure. We don't have to succumb to what we believe opinions of us are. Just live your life willy-nilly. Have fun. Whatever's exciting, go that way. Do no harm. Try not to hurt other people. Definitely try not to hurt yourself. I was talking to a guy at a gathering yesterday, and he was obviously on drugs. And it was whatever. I mean, we all have our dopamine hits, right? But he was trying to justify it to me. Because I'm always talking about this stuff. The stuff that I record for YouTube and everything. I'm always talking about this stuff. This is the only thing that really excites me because I'm going through my own childhood traumas and trying to figure everything out. So anyhow, he was justifying his drug use. And I said, well, anything, any drug can become an anchor where you get stuck in one spot and you just spin tires. You don't go anywhere. And he's like, oh, well, that's for you, right? For you, that's your opinion. I'm like, well, opinions are opinions, but there are some facts in existence. And if you do meth all the time, it's going to mess your head up a little bit. You're always searching for that dopamine hit. And And that goes for even the subtler drugs like marijuana and psilocybin mushrooms, or certain types of hallucinogens. Ayahuasca, you can't do that every day. You'd lose your damn mind, or you would electrically short out your nervous system. You can't do that. So you have to be diligent. And I said, no, drugs in general are not necessarily the route you want to take. I know that the Rastas use marijuana for spiritual practices and stuff, and that's totally fine. But if you get hooked on anything and you're doing it daily, maybe even several times a day, that's a problem. It's like overeating, over-exercising. Anything to extreme degrees is bad. Like, I wouldn't even suggest massive amounts of meditation, especially to start off with. That's something you work yourself up to. So, but getting back onto other people's opinions, he was trying to convince me that was just an opinion. And I'm like, no, there's some fact in there, man. I mean, there's some spiritual fact in there, and there's some duality facts in there. We know, long-term drug usage isn't really a good idea. But he wanted to party, and he wanted to be around other people that wanted to party. But the problem is, and I'm sure you've seen people, they call them tweakers, people on meth or cocaine or any type of crazy stimulant like that, they are frazzled and they're everywhere all at once, and they don't stop. They can't stop doing the twitchy shit. And, God bless them, man, because that's a hard road to travel. But they got in that spot for a reason. They're trying to numb something. And generally, most of our issues travel back to our childhood, how we were raised. I just read this article, and it was regarding the law of opposites. And it was talking about parenting and how our children are actually our parents and we're their students, because there's only so much information that's really necessary. You need to, learn to read and write, carry yourself appropriately, learn what the laws are so you don't accidentally break one of those, right? But beyond that, I mean, we really don't need to be teaching our kids personality. That's something that just comes naturally as you get older and you grow up. And I know for myself, I'm a different person than I was in my 20s. I'm a completely different person than I was in my 20s. I'm not as bound by other people's ideals as I used to be. I have my own. And that's what growing up is. And then going into old age and all of that is another dynamic based in that opinionized scapegoat mentality that we have. There really isn't any of that. And we are our children's children. I know from experience, my kids taught me more about myself than I ever taught them about themselves. I give my child the same advice that I would give you. If it excites you and it doesn't hurt anybody in the process, go that direction. If you want to travel, then go fucking travel. If you can't stand your job, put forth the effort and find another job. If you want a great relationship, learn authenticity and vulnerability. It's imperative. If you want a healthy relationship, you have to communicate. And so you need to know yourself in order to communicate. And the more you know yourself and the more authentic and vulnerable you are, you will be able by default to see if your partner is vulnerable and authentic and themselves enough to have a conversation. I almost want to say adult conversation, but that's bullshit too. But a solid conversation on what hurts. I mean, we should be talking to each other like we're all 5-year-olds, because we're all children. I've never met an adult in my life, not one. I mean, I've known professors and politicians and police officers and firefighters, and they're tough, but they're still little kids. They still are scared. We don't go through our childhood shadow work enough. And you really have to. You have to go, why do I do this? Where did it start? And how do I change my mind about it? Because you show me your beliefs and I will show you your limitations. And that I can point that finger right back at myself. We get caught up in bullshit perspective that isn't real. I mean, we know politics are a joke. I'm sure there's some senators and congressmen and maybe even presidential nominees that are really on top of it and have the country's best interest at hand. But you and I both know that's not generally the case. They have sponsors, they have corporate interests, they have stock interests. You're going to go where the money is. That's one of the drawbacks of capitalism. You're going to go where the money is. Not saying that there's some other political system that's better, because there is no such thing as utopia. We're never going to have a perfect world. We're always going to have conflict because we're little children in big bodies. And we can't make resolutions for things that we just are putting up walls, boundaries. So it takes a lot of introspection to keep going. And there comes a point where you realize that what other people think of you doesn't really matter. Beyond concrete evidence, which there's very little of, opinions really don't matter. Put your mask on when you're doing a job interview. Put your mask on, when you're trying to get a loan for a home or a car loan or something like that. Put your mask on. Play the game. We're in a very advanced version of Grand Theft Auto, right? Which just sounds so silly, but it's true. It's a game. Your credit score is a game. Your relationships are a game. Just be careful that you're playing the game and on what mode you're playing that game. You should always try to be authentic and vulnerable with people, because that's all we ever want. We just want people to go, I hurt. That hurts when you do that to me. Could you please stop? And that opens up a conversation. Well, why? Why does that hurt you? Well, because of this. And then maybe you can get to the nuts and bolts of it. You can get right down to the foundation of why you have the boundaries you have. Boundaries aren't for other people. Those are for you. People don't have to obey your boundaries. Your boundaries are there to let you know that you need to move on. So don't be afraid of letting people go either. It sucks. It hurts. It's painful, especially if you've had like a relationship for decades, and it's just not fitting anymore. So sometimes you have to turn around and walk away. But do it with love. Do it with kindness. You don't have to get into an argument. You don't have to explain your side of the story to appease other people. You explain your side of the story to let them know why you're doing what you're doing. And I'm not going to take that anymore. That's not me. Because, you guys see the internet trolls and the bullies and everything. Everybody's got something to say. Everybody wants to pick on you for something. And it's funny if you look at it the right way. If you look at it in a dualistic way, it hurts. But if you look at it in the right way, it's kind of funny. Because generally when people are pointing at you, they're actually looking into a mirror. The faults they have in you are the faults that they have in themselves. The best relationship you will ever have in your life will be so boring that it will bore you to tears. You'll just be sitting on park benches watching people walk by and being fine with it. But we want excitement. We want something that's not us. We want something new, something different. And we want somebody to reflect our image back to them, and vice versa. That's why people put themselves through living hell. People burn karma all the time in relationships. You look for your parents. You look for your alter ego. You look for the devil in everyone you meet because you're hoping they'll burn the hell out of you. They'll burn you to ashes. That's what we're going for. It's consciousness. We all want to be more conscious. I hope this helps. If it does, drop a comment. I love reading the comments. It's fantastic. And thank you guys for your support. And as always, much love.